Hi there, I'm meteorologist Brooks Garner out of Orlando, Fox 35, and this is your New Year's forecast, not just for Orlando here in Central Florida, home of Disney, Universal, and SeaWorld, but we'll take a look at the nation. So if you're doing any traveling or maybe you're just flipping through YouTube trying to find your forecast, and if you're up north, you're going to really appreciate this forecast. 78 degrees. Can you imagine? Well, let me tell you, it is as good as it may look. It feels great outside. There's something about the air, not to brag or anything like that, but just to share with you, there's a little secret. Florida is really nice. Florida's nice in the wintertime. It's true, though. The only catch is that we've got a little bit of rain on the way for New Year's Eve, Saturday night. Just a possibility of it. A few showers, otherwise gets out of our hair, leading to a beautiful Sunday. So nationwide, we've got a couple of big weather makers sweeping across the nation. And it all goes back to the start, the Pacific Ocean, a westward component, what's called the Pineapple Express or an atmospheric river. It's a series of systems that will be making their way through the West Coast and eventually across the country. As they do so, they generally weaken. So the focus is going to be some big weather with huge snow in the Sierra that could amount to over 6 feet in places, with inches upon inches of rain that could result in flooding. But there's a benefit here. There will be some denting to the western drought that seems interminable. It's been going on for decades, and it likely will, but this will certainly help to at least add some water to the current situation, water which will eventually make its way across the country in various waves. So we'll be tracking storm systems. No major winter storm systems for the East Coast. In fact, it'll be warmer than normal. Compare that to the weather a couple of days ago where we had all those massive epic snowstorms up here in upstate New York, like near Buffalo, the biggest snowstorm in a generation. It truly was a horrible situation with, unfortunately, a lot of fatalities there. Meanwhile, out west, it's all about the snow, and there will be an avalanche danger as system after system pushes through. This is Monday, January 2nd. When a severe weather threat will present, because these big low pressure systems coming through the Midwest will have a southerly component, that being a trailing cold front tapping deep Gulf moisture and a lot of heat as well across Florida and the Gulf Coast states. As that's pushed north and encounters the cold winter weather to the north, that's where you could get some out of season tornadoes, especially in places like Mississippi, Tennessee, and into Illinois. Now, unfortunately, in the wintertime, we can get these secondary maximums of tornado outbreaks, but that typically doesn't come until February. That said, we can still get them this time of year. Now, this is a non-severe weather maker coming through the deep south tomorrow for Friday, December the 30th, but it will make for some rainy travel in Alabama and along I-10 in the panhandle of Florida. Temperatures will be in the 60s, 70s, and 80s across the southeast. Meanwhile, the teens, as you might expect here for North Dakota, the 30s and 40s from Salt Lake City to Reno, and you see all that yellow on the map, that is some really dreary weather. That is heavy rain and heavy snow at the higher elevations, 58 in San Francisco with a lot of fog. So LA, 60 degrees, it's going to be cool across the West Coast. Nicest place will be here across the southeast. Up in the northeast for tomorrow, New York, 56 degrees. Otherwise a beautiful day. I mean, that's very mild for this time of year. It's what's called a thaw this time of year, and often they're associated with what's known as the January thaw. And unfortunately, with all the heavy snow they've had here across places like Buffalo, it's expected that there could be a flash melt where it all melts away and can lead to some flooding issues. Well, as far as travel goes on the roadways, there will be some wet travel from the big cities across Texas, Dallas, Houston, eastward through tonight into tomorrow, across St. Louis, and eventually into the southeastern cities. Snow from Minneapolis down through central Nebraska, and of course in the Intermountain West for tomorrow. Now, as far as the impacts with the rest of the weather systems, I want to get more into depth about this atmospheric river, because this really is, as far as the meteorology goes, an impressive system. Here's California. There's a literal straw of moisture feed going all the way back toward the tropical Pacific near the latitudes and longitude of Hawaii. This thing goes well over 1,500 miles east, encounters the Sierra Nevada mountains and the Rockies, and it just wrings it out. And so you get so much rain, copious amounts of rain here, and snow across the west, which, as I mentioned, is very beneficial for their drought situation, but too much too soon can cause some major problems. In fact, with events like this in the past across Northern California, there have been dams, earthen dams that have broken and caused huge problems. Dams where before they were so empty that some had speculated it would take generations to fill up. And in fact, they filled up inside of a week from one of these systems. Look at this, 65 inches of snow forecast by this computer model over the next several days across the Sierra. That would be around Tahoe. So we're looking at over 5 feet of snow. Major event. Maybe 2 to 3 feet up around Salt Lake City. You've got Alta and Brighton, Snowbird, all the ski areas there. Even in southwest Colorado and around Telluride, they could get a good 18 to 24 inches of snow. Big city Denver, maybe several inches of snow, but hey, any moisture is good for this part of the country. As far as temperatures right now, as if this recording on this Thursday night, we've got warm weather all the way up to Chicago and pretty cold weather up here in Billings. So whenever you see a contrast like that, indeed there's a storm system brewing, and that is what is going to cause the weather here over the next couple of days. Weather which tonight has been causing some big problems across southeast Texas with flash flooding and copious amounts of rain. Now here's something you can only get with our Fox stations is the exclusive Fox model. And this performs extremely well, not just in the tropical season with tracking hurricanes, but also in the winter season tracking systems. And this one's doing a great job showing the weather here across Atlanta, Orlando, and Miami, southeast flow, a warm flow with the approaching storm system. So for tomorrow, for the eve of New Year's Eve, there's going to be a really good chance for some torrential rains from the Big Easy, New Orleans, up through Mobile, Alabama, Biloxi, into Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Birmingham area. Eventually that makes its way into Atlanta on New Year's Eve and Tampa for New Year's Eve. Eventually Saturday night after dark, probably Orlando, but by then a lot of the energy required to produce the rain, it's going to go northeast. It's going to sort of head up toward the Delmarva and maybe up toward New Jersey, leaving behind just sort of the lingering energy. In other words, not much. It's going to be like a broken string of pearls where each pearl's a light shower, and that's about it. It's really not going to do anything to the temperatures either. It's going to leave behind some very pleasant weather with 80s in the forecast for the better part of the next 2 weeks here across the southeast with just occasional incursions of cold weather. But the takeaway with this forecast for your New Year's Eve is that you got to stay tuned to your local weather. If you're watching from the southeast, it's going to be warm for us through next week. But if you're watching from the northwest or the west or even the Midwest, get ready for some cold weather and some very active weather thanks to that giant and what could be historic atmospheric river heading into California. Well, my name is meteorologist Brooks Garner. Thanks for watching. And if you like what you see, give us a follow and ring the bell to subscribe to our YouTube channel.